really happy to be here tonight. Thank you everyone for coming. I started right here with nearly zero experience. So if I can do it, you guys can too. And it got really real for me when a few years ago I actually lost my job. So had to pay the mortgage and feed the kids with real estate, investing in real estate. So quick, a lot of guys in the room. I recognize you all. I feel like I'm one of you guys. I've gotten and learned things from almost all of you. So um, here. A lot of heavy hitters here tonight, so I'm very humbled and proud to be here. So a little bit about me. I'm a licensed title agent on a very small title company, and I'm a licensed agent, started as an investor. Lost too many deals to the law firms and title companies making very small mistakes. And I was like, if there's a way to lose a deal, it should not be from your title company or your law firm disclosing the wrong information or making an actual mistake. So started our own company, and we've been off to the races ever since. With that said, as your settlement agent, I get to see the mechanics of the deal. I get to meet all the people, and I get to kind of look at the paperwork and go, "Wow, look at this deal," or "Oh, what are these guys doing?" And speaking of mechanics, so they got out and didn't want to be at a desk. I was a diesel mechanic for over a decade, and I said I would love to sit at a desk. So my dream was to be an AC. So you guys, you got AC, it ain't hard. I'm there. So, but yeah, so we're going to talk about some things. All the wholesalers tonight are probably going to be bored. A lot of this stuff you've probably already heard. So if you have, leave room for the guys who haven't heard it. And we've got some cool things that we can talk about. I think hopefully everyone can take away from tonight, and feel free to ask questions because we had a little technical difficulty before this evening, and this slideshow is a recreation of the original, and I'll leave it at that. So, all right, well, let's get started. So this is the first slide is you're just one deal away. You're one deal away. You're one, conversation with someone. You're one outreach from finding a deal, and that deal can change your life. I know a lot of folks who, I see a lot of folks who are at the closing table. I'm their settlement agent. And they just by chance talk to so and so or ask, so and so, hey, what have you been up to? How's it going? Oh, so and so's not doing too good. They want to sell their portfolio, or hey, they're willing to sell or finance it, or hey, is this the house is abandoned and she's stressed out. So, I like to say this, like whether you're a solo guy, you're on a team, you want to build a wholesaling team, you're one deal away. You're just one conversation away from a really big deal. So, that's kind of the premise of tonight. So, all right. Yep. So I think mindset is a lot to do with this game. It really, if you think you can, you think you can't, you're both right. All right. So it starts with belief. You can and you will. Behavior is the metric. Everyday actions that cause success are usually boring. So um, the luckiest and most successful people have taking action consistently in common. So is that a coincidence? I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. But yeah, the folks that if you're an agent in here, have you called any expireds this week? Do you what is your outreach like? How consistent are you? What is your behaviors like? Because behavior is what leads to your success, at least in a way you can measure. So, right. All right, things to consider. Some of the things we're going to go over tonight. This is a brief overview. Obviously, we're going to start at the 30,000-foot view, and then we're going to kind of zoom in as you guys have questions. So, feel free. We're going to talk about motivated buyers and sellers. We're talking about lower cost, manual ways to hunt for deals, data and industry providers. There's a little bit of AI stuff in there. I thought maybe we'll get to that. Meeting, someone can speak on those topics. Kind of a cutting edge stuff coming out. Um, when you get into any company, right? We'll talk about marketing, KPIs, cash conversion cycles, and then we will get to deal types and exits. So really I know, try to keep it cookie cutter, and I try to explain that we're really seeing, at least I'm seeing a lot of investors and myself, I'm trying to get really creative. And I think some of the traditional investing ideas, you can find that they can overlap, or you can get a little more creative. And so, we'll go through that. I didn't do like one type of deal structure. I kind of just want you guys to understand that people are doing some really cool stuff, and I get to see it. I get to see the settlement statement and go, wow, this person just retired on this one deal. They just, they're done. They're going to make 20 grand a month for the rest of their life, and I wish my name was on that piece of paper, right? So, stuff, or just, hey, this guy just made 3 grand just from saying hello to someone, right? They made an assignment or finder's fee or whatever the case may be. So, all right, so we're going to get into it. So you guys can ask questions. This is first things first. This is just again an overview. There may be stuff missing. If there is something missing, feel free to shout it out. Again, we had a pretty in-depth presentation, and we kept trying to chop it down to 1 hour, and then it was gone. So we got what we got tonight. So, motivated sellers may trade speed and convenience for potential or perceived equity, right? I talked about perceived equity because the person, many of you guys know, will say, "Oh, Zillow says my house is worth 600,000," and I have to be the guy that says, Zillow is taking into account that, you're in at least decent condition. So, that equity doesn't exist until you produce it or you put the work into the property. So it's perceived equity in a lot of cases. So doesn't mean it's not worth that, but a lot of times I use that word perceived to kind of point that out. So, all right, so some of the motivated sellers we're seeing. The first one is job loss or seniors on a fixed income. A lot of what I'm seeing right now is a lot of insurance rates have went up, and a lot of seniors on fixed incomes cannot make their mortgage payments now. And instead of waiting until they're in foreclosure, they're proactive, they're responsible, they pay their bills, and they call folks, and they call their mortgage broker, they call someone that they've worked with, title agent, lawyer, and they say, "What are we going to do? We can't pay our mortgage." So, and of course, I back them off the ledge, tell them it's going to be okay. But I'm seeing a lot of that right now. Just like to give you all the gems, and we do deals in this area and up in Scottsville, Flavanna, and Charlottesville. So I'm going to give you everything we're seeing, and so we'll just go through the list here: heirs and probate or family transfers. Families fight, and they fight over real estate, and they fight over people passing away too. So I think there's a metric you can check it. It's starting to be debunked, but in the title industry, we have found, we call it the Great Silver Wave. There will be as many or more seniors in the state of Virginia than Florida by 2035. Okay, so might be a good idea to learn about probates, talk about family transfers, trust, living estates, stuff like that. I think there unfortunately are a lot of deals coming that way, and if you can figure out how to be sensitive to that, you can get in front of that. That's a real metric, and we're seeing a lot more downsizers and seniors, and unfortunately there are folks passing away. Seems to be more this year passed away under escrow. The owner passed away, or the family member. So, a terrible thing, but we're seeing a lot of it. All right, lis pendens just means lawsuit incoming. Again, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. It's a story of my life as a title agent, but just means that there is some sort of legal action, and people you might want to sell. All right, divorce. We all know that one. Again, there are ways to get in front of those and market to those folks. And again, these people are going through a very difficult time, right? And they're all emotions. There's no logic, right? So if anyone's talked to a woman before, God forgive me. Yeah, I have been speaking logic my whole life, and I just learned from my friend who had a lot of sisters. Like, no, man, you're doing all wrong. You brought logic to an emotions fight. So anyway. That's part of the divorce thing. It's very emotional, folks, and they need help. They need guidance, and a lot of the divorce stuff, a lot of deals I don't close. I'm just there. I'm just listening, and I'm active listening, and I'm not bringing my logic to the table like a lot of people do. So sometimes that resonates with folks. Foreclosures. We're gonna talk a little bit about foreclosures. Where'd he go? The foreclosure guy is here. I think he's here. There's a lot of you guys know about foreclosures, so I won't beat a dead horse, but it's going to fall into a category in terms of looking for them and finding them. So we all know those. Tired landlords, some of you guys know. Trash tenants, toilets can be a lot. So it's not for everyone. Or when folks want to retire, they spent their whole life being the handyman, and now they still need income, but they can't fix those things, or you got bad tenants, or you get bad property. All of it can easily become overwhelming. You've got absentee owners. So people who don't live in the state or nearby. I'm moving with a timeline. This one is specific to this area, right? Because you have military, you've got folks PCSing. Sometimes, there's somebody that needs to get where they want to go, and they want to get there fast, or they have a specific deadline. Well, they will, I had a guy in Newport News, actually. He said, "Hey, I've rekindled my love with an old girlfriend from 40 years ago, putting everything in my truck, and I'm leaving tomorrow, show up tomorrow, sign papers." Didn't even care about the number. So he had a timeline. He said, "I'm out." I said, "I'll see you there." So we made him a fair offer, of course. That's a thing. A fun and equity trade. All right, here we go. So I have family in Vegas, And some of the deals you'll see out there that I see them do, the guy needs 40K for a new gold watch, or he wants to take his family to Aspen, whatever. He's got a property. He's gonna trade that in for fun, and he's got other properties, got other things going on. So those folks are fun to deal with a little bit. I wouldn't know if they're motivated or not. They're kind of whatever, but it's out there, and there's actually a lot of that here too. If you believe it or not, especially I see it more in the beach and Portsmouth. I don't know why. Those two cities I keep seeing people bring that up. So where were we? All right. So fund equity trade. We've got investors. We've got other investors. I have dumped deals, guys. I've been in deals. I'm dumping. I've dumped them. Okay. So if your focus changes, sometimes your goals change. Other investors, sometimes wholesalers lock something up they can't handle, or they did their ARV wrong, or there's 10 wholesalers in this daisy chain, and now you're number 11 trying to close with your end buyer. Other investors, you can do a lot of business with people in this room, so that should be evidence of that. And a lot of the first deals I did was with other wholesalers. So, I believe in collaboration over competition, really. There's just, deal of a lifetime comes twice a week and 3 times on Sunday. So failed listings, that's, and remember, this can work if you're an investor or an agent, right? How many agents in this room reached out to expired listings this week consistently? How many hours did you do it? How many did you talk to? Some of them are frustrated. Some of them are mad at agents for not being able to sell their house, okay? So sometimes a conversation with them could lead to a deal. I know an expired led to one of my first, was it expired? I don't know if it was expired. It was expiring. It led to one of my first subject to seller finance deals. So you just, like I said, have the conversation. Don't have commission breath, right? Don't force them, but this is one of my favorites as a title agent, right? Title defects / chain of title issues. How many of you guys have had those? Yeah. So were you about ready to sell that deal? Were you ready to get out of it? And then of course your trusted title agent happens to be an investor that says, I can fix this for you, or I'll buy you out, but I think you're making a mistake. So yeah, those are some of my favorites. That can't always be solved. Sometimes they can't be solved, or sometimes they require a ton of work. So it's good to have someone competent and an attorney as well who is well versed in those dealings. All right, liens and judgments kind of fall into that category. A little bit of a different thing, right? If you guys have ever had to close on a property that had a judgment or a lien, and the bank that had the lien is closed, and the attorney's retired, and what do you do, and who do you pay, and do we even have to pay this? Or, can you get a title insurance policy if you still have a judgment? There's quit claim deed for the W, right? So no, don't ever do that. Liens and judgments are up there, and you can actually, you can search liens and judgments at your courthouse. So you just start calling people with liens and offer to pay them so they can sell their property. And then bankruptcy, I actually have one right now. So I have one in Norfolk. It happens, right? Folks, you're one deal away from your life changing, but you're also one bad thing from your life changing the other direction, right? And I think everyone in this room would agree we're all closer to being homeless than we are a billionaire, right? So, well, no one in this room. Let me rephrase that. Everyone else, right? But yeah, so just a quick slide of motivated sellers. I'm sure you guys have maybe encountered a couple different ones. I just try to do ones that maybe would open us up to what I'm seeing and what's out there. So. All right, next slide, please. Motivated buyers. Remember, buyers can be a deal too, right? And I see a lot of folks, especially, I think agents, this kind of goes without say, but as an investor, or as a wholesaler, or just deal making, if you link someone up, maybe you don't get any monetary compensation, but people appreciate that and they remember you. So, but on the other hand, when you can also make a ton of money. So other investors, right, wholesalers. I see a lot of people miss the mark on the commercial side with investors, right? There are plenty of investors, mom and pop, under 5 million. Who's that? Unaccredited investors, 3.5 million and below, looking for commercial properties that fit a certain buy box. Why not talk to them, right? They're out there. Other companies who want operating space, or they have a specific property in mind, kind of like investor, but these companies are looking for a specific property, and it may not have to be. Some of them are looking for multifamily or residential multifamily, or mid-term, short-term. So there are companies looking if you want to fill their buy box, and you could focus on any one of these things in this presentation tonight. And if you're consistent with it, I'm confident you'll have good results, right? Land developers, that's a big thing right now. They're all blood in the water. They really think that there's a boom coming. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know, but they're gearing up. They're selling their Porsches and they're coming for vacant land apparently. So yeah, institutional investors, right? When I started, what was it? When I got my real estate license, that's my broker. I look at him as my timeline. He's my broker. So full disclaimer. When I started, I worked for a wholesaling outfit that was a nationwide outfit. And one of our agents and this outfit, we would sell to an institutional investor. They wanted to buy 10 houses a month, and they would close all 10 on the same day in cash as long as we could get them 10% off. So like without an agent, boom, lock it up, we're selling. And so what scared me was their buy box changed a couple years ago. And while I was there, and these were before they changed the laws, these were Chinese companies, it's a very interesting thing, but they changed their buy box from 40-year appreciation, meaning they're going to buy it, rent it, and hold it for 40 years, to 10-year rent return. So it was, now they're like, hey, anything we think the rent's going to increase in the next 10 years, we'll buy it. And they went from 10 to 40 to 100 houses a month. So if you're an agent in that time when things were crazy, and you're like, man, I put multiple offers in, and some cash guy beat us. Sorry, it was my team and I. We were making cash offers, and we could close quick, and we could beat pretty much anyone. And they funded all the same day. It was crazy. It scared me though. It scared me. I'm thinking, man, if there's only 1,000 houses on the market in the city, they're buying 100 of them. They're buying 10% of the market. These deals will never come back, right? They're going to hold them. It's not like, I just thought, okay, so now institutional investors are going to own a large part of residential real estate, and those stock market guys, when they have a little market share, they tend to start to, tend to start to have an influence in that market one way or another. So it scared me, and I wanted to own and control as much real estate as I could in the next 5 years. So anyway, and then private equity, same kind of thing. When I asked about why the buy box had changed right before I got let go for asking too many questions, this private equity has championed American real estate as a return. So not only are they using the Teachers Retirement Fund of Ohio, as an example, to buy real estate and get a better return, or as good a return as the stock market, they're championing this business model to other asset managers. So we had Chinese businesses, we had the Netherlands, we had all these foreign companies buying American real estate, and as an American, I thought, I can't do this anymore. It's not for me. So luckily they changed the law, they don't do that. So anyway, private equity funds will buy your deals. Whether or not they're buying in your area is a good question to ask yourself, and how you can find them. They're there. I think at least one of them is buying here with a very specific buy box. So we can talk about it afterwards. So next slide. No questions on the last slide, because this is the fun one. So this is the most folks know about this stuff, and hopefully some of the last slide has got your brains shook or excited, because I'm just like seeing people blinking at me. So okay, so we're looking for deals, right? These are all low-cost strategies. This is what some of the stuff I did when I literally I didn't have a job. I couldn't be at home, so I thought, what are things some folks are doing, and really driving for dollars was one of them for me. Just while I'm driving, look for dilapidated properties. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a house like where you're driving, like, oh, that one looks, and you want to get the address and reach out to the owners. That's still a thing for me. If I see a house, I'm still going to do that. I'm going to write the address down. I'm going to look out for the owners. So, hey, people are getting smart. Now they know that they don't need to burn gas to do that. You can Google Street View neighborhoods looking for dilapidated properties. It's a little bit outdated, but it can work, and I've seen it work, and there are actually AI programs that'll do it for you now too. So have AI scan all the neighborhoods for you and find ones that look in bad shape, pull the list, and you know what to do from there. So, all right, door knocking, door hangers, and asking the neighbors. Okay, one of the things I did when I was a new agent was I door knocked foreclosures, okay, in person, dressed just like this. So it was a fun time, but it didn't have the same result. I learned some things, but it wasn't what I thought I was going to learn, okay? One of the things I learned is the easiest thing that those folks can do is nothing. Think that they want to do all, you can help them, they're going to do all these things. No. Sticking their head in the sand sometimes the easiest thing, and avoiding what they've been avoiding, because they wouldn't be here. So, so door knocking, door hangers, and asking the neighbors, right? Like, hey, who used to live there? What's up with that house? Why is it empty? What's going on with it? You'd be surprised, people know what's going on in their neighborhood. QR code stickers, right? I think this is underutilized. I was at Busch Gardens and there was a QR sticker and I checked, I was waiting in that line sweating and it was a real estate agent saying, hey, you're waiting in line. Why don't you look at this house I have for sale, right? Brilliant, free marketing, thousands of people see it. I thought it was cool. I think it's underutilized, but you can use that to find deals just like the bandit signs. Put a QR code in Home Depot or something or wherever you think of, let your imagination roam. You can might get a call the same day or you might get it in a couple months, but TTP, this is talk to people. As you can tell, I'm usually a social butterfly, so I will talk to just about anyone. And again, I talked to someone who was, I was at Langley Speedway with my car. I was a mechanic, so I had a fast car. And I saw Alan there who used to, and I said, hey, I recognize you from somewhere. And again, he offered to sell or finance me one of his properties. So how about that? I was young and said, I don't have the credit to buy yet, but I do have a little cash. What can you do? And he said, I'll hook you up. It never materialized, but just talk to people. It's a big thing. All right, mail couriers. Come on, guys. The Amazon guy or gal in your neighborhood, they know what's going on. They know you. They see what you're doing. They know what's going on in your neighborhood. So asking them like, hey, have you seen any houses that are empty? Are there, they have to walk most neighborhoods most days, so they're kind of driving for dollars already. You can kind of just piggyback on that, or you can see, hey, yeah, this guy's been working, this guy's been working on his house, or anything in between, right? So and so's getting a divorce, or so and so, whatever. He got hurt, he can't work. We're all trying to have a vigil for him this weekend. So they know a lot, and it's kind of the theme here, right? Asking people in the neighborhood, go to the basketball court, go get crisscrossed up, you'll be all right. Maybe you'll learn about something in the neighborhood that's going on. There's a basketball court in the back of my neighborhood, and again, at least they told me what houses not to go to, right? So that was good. Social media posts in specific groups. I've seen this. I see agents do this, and sometimes painfully, like like agents posting in investor groups. That's cool, but you can also post in like the single mother group if you're a single mother, or something that resonates with you, right? The woodworkers club, and just you can post in there. And I think some of the single fathers group, those guys need support, and they also need some help. So if they decide that they're going to sell their house, you ask them if it's emotional or this really needs to happen because it's out there. So that is a huge, I think that's very underutilized. I underutilize it, so maybe some of you guys do the same. You can really pick any one thing and do it consistently. I guarantee you'll get a result, especially if you measure that, which we'll get to measuring your results here in a minute. So some of this is kind of overlaps, right? But handwritten letters, sometimes I would handwrite letters to kind of cheating, but I would handwrite letters to folks that showed up on more than one indicator. And sometimes, they get 10, foreclosures too, they get 10 pieces of mail. They're going to open the handwritten letter. Sometimes it'll resonate. Now the market, there's all kinds of creative stuff people are doing, but back then it was interesting. And I would get a response. It would say, hey, we're not, my so-and-so had passed away. We're not selling, but we appreciate your letter and your kind words. Hey, that's cool. At least I got a response, right? I've gotten the FU too, so don't, I get a lot of those. So goes both ways. MLS, or reach out to agents, and I put at your own risk, right? Some agents, they just don't get it, right? They're like, wow, they don't understand. So some of them are a little bit rougher on the edges, but the MLS is a great place, and I think you'll start to see, if you're an agent, you have listings right now, how are they doing? Are you reducing the price? Are they sitting a little longer? Some of the MLS stuff, there's some deals on the MLS if you talk to people, and I'm not saying write 100K offers under asking, but call the agent, ask them, see if an offer under asking they'd even entertain that or be interested in that, because sometimes they will, especially the folks that got to move or got to be somewhere, school starting. So the MLS is a great place, and I think it wasn't for a little while, but also I think there was 18,000 real estate agents in either our area or this part of the state, and I reached out to 10,000 of them. Okay, so some of you guys, I apologize, but what I found was the majority of them did not understand, like, why would I sell that? They didn't understand the off-market side, and they didn't understand. They just really don't have a grasp for it. So you can help them, try to educate them, or you can you can wait till it expires and help their clients the way they should be doing. So. That's out there. So, all right, here's a good one. Reach out to title companies and law firms, also at your own risk. Be careful, because some of them aren't going to talk to you. But our title company, we're very investor friendly. And we will talk to you. I don't give legal advice, right? But I'm happy to help where I can. And sometimes if I think, I would give this information to a new investor, or sometimes my favorite thing to do is to ask wholesalers who have locked up a new contract. How did you get to that price? They bring me the agreement, no end buyer, and it's an MLS property that's 50K over the MLS price, and it's locked up. So I think, okay, well, how'd you get here? Let's talk about it, right? Because I'm not doing a title search just yet. So title companies and law firms, and you'll find that some smaller attorneys, some smaller law firms, especially the bankruptcy attorneys, you'll get a lot of bulldogs, a lot of people who are, who are you, what do you want, get out of my face. But you'll also get some folks who are like, okay, you talk to them, and they may ask you to come see what you can do, or they may say, hey, we don't have an agent we work with. Why don't you come bring your business card? We'll have a conversation. Never know. So, retirement homes. This is a big one, guys. This is coming back to that stat. This is a really high stat. AI is really clicking on the retirement stuff. I mean, just on a basic model, there's a lot of large institutional investors investing in retirement homes and retirement living. So you could be you could own a multifamily that way. But when you move into a retirement home, those folks who can't pay it's on the other slide, they can't pay their mortgage or their insurance or their taxes anymore. Sometimes the option is to go to a retirement home and they sell their house to pay for how many years. They kind of start gauging so they may need someone to help them relocate, handle their situation for them, and get them to the retirement home. So some retirement homes, again, are new. They don't have their systems figured out, and they'll work with anyone. Some of them, they already have what they're working with. But I think that's a lot of times I call them, and they're just like, yeah, we're not working with anyone. Again, they quickly get a system in place. Corporates put something in place. But you can help the folks who need to sell their property. One way, if it's in poor shape, then you structure it from there. But so REO and asset managers and foreclosure trustees. Okay, the foreclosure trustees thing we'll leave off. But REO and asset managers, again, this is more. It's kind of an agent thing. But I think you'll find that there are so many more REO and asset managers than you think. There's a lot of different banks. There's a lot of different types of loans, and when they default, they go a lot of different directions, right? And sometimes they default for things that you wouldn't think about. I did one that was a grant that was given to an underprivileged family, and they defaulted on the grant or the requirements of that 5 years later. So, hey, they're like, hey, we've never had this happen. What do we do? I was like, I can help you. I got you. Won't be your trustee. But that could have been a deal for anyone to step in there and just pay what they owed. It was only a couple grand, right? So they could have just paid it and been done. All right. Going to the courthouse for manual property info, for the city violation list, notice of defaults. I like this because you get to meet the people in the office, and as a title guy, I'm always looking for deeds and stuff. I don't mind going in there and talking to them. And you'll find that some of them kind of depends on what kind of day you're having, what you're going to find out that day. So you're going to find something out, but it may not be what you want. So I do like going to the courthouse, but these are all manual things you can do. It's not going to cost you a ton of money. These are all things that will cost you more time, but they're very low cost in terms of dollar spend, and that's the idea on all these. So you can go to the courthouse. That's where everything happens. That's where property transactions happen. It's in the county, right? So, hey, we've got bandit signs. Has anyone ever done bandit signs here? Has anyone got a deal off a bandit sign? Yeah, all right. So me and you only, I guess. And mine are in the shopping center. You see them. They're not too expensive, but again, they're cheaper than some of the other methods, and they do work if you're consistent enough with them that you will get calls. I had one that was like, well, pay to take over your payments, and I was getting people like calling me like, I'm done with this car. Come take over the payments. I was like, no, we want real estate, but you get the idea. If you put them out consistently enough in the right areas, you'll get a response. So. Here we go. All right. So auctions. Auctions are some of are kind of, they're kind of done a certain way in the big cities here. And as you spread out to other counties, you'll find out that they are done a different way. But we'll just talk about around here. So City of Norfolk, has anyone been to that auction on the courthouse steps? Do you know if you can assign those kind of deals right off the courthouse steps? I'll leave it to you, because I don't think they care whose name's on the paper. And I've seen a lot of auctioneers, a lot of auctions. Right, people write their LLC and or assigns right on who's buying the property. They got 30 days to pay. So, can you assign those deals? I'll leave it to you to answer that question. But not saying. So, and then, okay, so the bottom here, note foreclosures on manual data. So foreclosures are some of the most motivated sellers, at least they should be. And finding them is very easy, right? They're posted everywhere. The trustees have to post those things. And a lot of times, hey, foreclosure guy, he taught me a lot about these, right? And my broker. But yeah, a lot of times they don't have a vested interest in working with you. They don't need to work with you. They get paid to execute and handle the foreclosure on behalf of their client. So why would they talk to you, right? So there are some things you can do, but I wanted to put that in as manual data. You can Google foreclosures, trustees right now and actually pull the law firms that are selling these properties. Most of them, instead of posting, they post at the courthouse, but they also post them online. So you can pull a list right now and call them tonight, 10 minutes. So, it's a good place to start if you have no money and time, or, you're afraid you're going to mess up. You didn't waste any money, just some experience tokens. So anyway, these are a lot of low cost, great strategies. I think, again, you could focus on any one of them. And if you actually measured what you're doing, you can start to tweak and be curious about how to get results on, or be like me and do all of them poorly, right? So, at the same time. So when I started, I thought, we're going to do everything. So. But yeah, any questions on does anyone have one that we missed? Want to share? I know the wholesalers got a lot to say. They're doing a lot. So yeah, yep. I expected that, and I was hoping for that. Yes.
I personally don't do it because it's very tedious, but I know for a lot of beginners, you could do it for sell by owners too.
Yep.
For sell by
For sure.
owners and
Yep. That's great. That's
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Yep.
something like that. But I remember the
Yeah, I
names.
appreciate that. Yep. I was like, man, I'm going to bore all the wholesalers tonight. They know about all this stuff. They're doing it right now. They're going to be asleep in the back. But,
Yeah, but there's guys like me that need to
right. Yeah. I said, well,
need to do this. Now, can I do something real quick?
sure.
This is going to be real fast. Let's
My
go
pleasure.
down the list. Raise your hand if you've done it. All right, and it's worked for you. Driving for dollars. All right, Google Street View. I never thought about that, but there you go. Okay, there's one that's worked. Door knocking, door hangers, ask the neighbors. QR code stickers. Talk to people. Ask the mail carrier. All right, there's some good ones. Service providers. All right, there's one. Asking people in the neighborhood. Here, let's see how this one goes. Social media post.
See, that should be
Come on,
everyone.
Andrew, your
That should
hand's
be
not up.
everyone.
Is that how you bought the last house? You're working that one hard. You guys are that one is I don't use it enough myself. Handwritten letters. I got one on that. I typed mine out though. MLS to reach out to agents. Okay. Title companies and law firms. Okay. Retirement homes. I haven't done that, but we got one over there. REO and asset managers, foreclosure trustees.
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably a good place that nobody's hitting up. Going to the courthouse for city violation list. All right. Bandit signs. Yep. And
Everyone starts
auctions.
there,
He's
right?
bought a house at auction. All right, good deal. Hey. So they're all working. It's what I'm seeing. And what I like about this is you're not paying a whole bunch of stuff. Driving for dollars, you're just driving around, you're spending gas.
Also, one that I left off that a lot of people don't care for is fire damage properties
Yep.
as well. But you got to contact, I think, the fire department, and they'll give you a list or redirect you to give you a list of the fire damage properties in the city if you prefer like tear downs and new builds, stuff like that.
All right, good deal. Thanks for letting me play.
No problem. Yeah, and I want to spend the bulk of the time here. The next stuff's going to get a little more specific. So we'll try to keep it quick. So yeah, we'll go to the next slide here. All right. This is in acquisitions. Data is the new gold, right? I think if everyone heard about Frank Keller and his fight against Google, basically, or Zillow, the companies that control the real estate market, companies like Zillow, they're data companies, and they are not a real estate company, and they control more of this industry than the actual realtors and real estate companies. So I think it's very important to understand the relationship between data and your industry, because They know when people are looking, they know when people are searching, they know what they're looking for, they know when they're clicking. That is a huge thing. And same with any market. Your credit card companies pay for your phone locations, where you go, when you spend. So very big deal. So we'll keep it quick. Data is the new gold, and so we'll go down the slide. Data providers are typically used as an industry standard in this day and age. Pulling property records online or aggregating direct personal info digitally, or both, with the focus of efficiency and accuracy, can be a game changer, right? So PropStream and Batch are probably the most well-known in our industry, and I think PropStream just recently acquired Batch, so we'll see how this goes. Everyone knows that, so I put that up there. So data is kind of where it's happening right now, and how a lot of people are able to scale and be consistent. So we'll go to the next one. So just a quick recap on why data is important, or just a quick example would be, pulling lists of property owners from online providers, allows you to aggregate data, large lists of property owners from different search providers and public record categories. This helps because, large lists in specific areas can be stacked to identify if any property or property owners reoccur on multiple lists. This may indicate a higher likelihood of being interested in an offer, aka be a motivated seller. So, for example, John Smith and the property 321 Apple Street has populated on the city violation list for grass, tax lien list, and is an absentee owner. This might mean that if you reached out to him, you might be more motivated than just your high equity list, right? You might be closer to a yes. So this may indicate he's more likely, and you can actually focus your marketing and outreach on only leads that have multiple signs of distress or potential motivation. So you can do this as one person, right? You can pull a list and it go from 10,000 and start stacking, get down to a couple thousand, then get down to a couple hundred, then get down to 60, and then you call it 60 like your life depends on it. Guarantee you're going to get a deal. You're going to get until all 60 tell you no, right? Most folks call for a couple days, a week. It's typically 11 contacts before you even get anywhere with a client. So that's just general sales. So anyway, you can run a team this way. You can just do this yourself. Cool. All right, so this is something cool. This is a rabbit hole you can go down. I hope everyone goes down this rabbit hole. I'm currently in this rabbit hole. AI is really changing the industry. Maybe that'll be something we talk about. So we'll talk about predictive data. And if you're ever wondering, like, man, how did this? You call the PropStream list and the guy's already under contract, or they've already talking to an agent, they're already talking to somebody. Predictive data is where a company creates an artificial intelligent machine that takes in all types of lists, stacks them, and as seller transactions close every month off market, it gets better and better at predicting who will sell in the future. So your credit card companies do this, by the way. Okay, and then they offer you credit cards. But then it splits out the sellers from the least predicted to sell to most predicted to sell and provides you with a pre-built list. This typically can predict 70% or more of people that will sell off market. So they're saying, hey, this guy's, he has the same indicators as people who have sold off market. He hasn't sold off market yet. Reach out to him, right? He may say yes. So this is a huge thing. I don't know. I think it's cool, but it's also, just makes me think of an entirely AI-driven world where the AI company finds a list, stacks it, skip traces it, reaches out. They've got AI callers. It's just a weird dystopian thing, but it is true, and people were using it to find deals before other people, right? So, at least talk to the client, and they've got a cousin or sister that's an agent, great. But I did talk to them, and their agent will do fine for them, right? So. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys one of the ones I've actually worked with, DataFlick. They're an AI predictive company that's in the real estate industry. They have 32 lists built into an AI machine that predicts over 70%. So that's where I got this. The 70% came from them. I asked them, hey, can you guys give me some information, and I'll put your name on this slide, and they happily did. This is getting into data or getting into medium costs / getting into marketing, which can be costly. So we're kind of stepping away from that. But you don't have to have a huge budget to do this either, right? You can say, I want to do X amount of deals, and then you can buy the appropriate amount of data to accomplish that. So still affordable, in my opinion, especially if you can beat everyone to it. If you're ever wondering how they're doing it, that's one way they're doing it. So I wanted to give you guys the gem of one company, and they're just one of many doing it, and one of 10 that's going to pop up in the next year, right? So why is this important? Courthouse data, I think, still is is a critical data point. I think courthouse data is always going to be important. So, this is data that's formed at the courthouse: eviction, probate, pre-probate, divorce, liens, foreclosures, tax, default. The fire list is there in there. Everything that happens in the city is in the city courthouse, at least most of it, and 99%. And so, you can go get the data yourself, or you can pay a provider to go get it for you, and you can do multiple courthouses, multiple counties, multiple cities. Very efficient. And I think it's even efficient versus if you spent the time to go do it yourself. I think you'll find that the price is well worth it. And so I would recommend using a data syndicate, or there's literally a company called Data Syndicate. So I say a data syndicate or data syndicate. They're the cheapest option for data unless you use like Dataflick's predictive list. Dataflick has a cheaper price if you're already a client before they started doing AI. And all courthouse data, such as all the stuff that happens: eviction, probate, divorce, liens, foreclosures. It's cheaper provider than Foreclosure Daily, who we're going to get to, but not available in all areas. So Data Syndicate doesn't have your smaller counties. So if you're hunting in a, yep. Oh sure, I've been in your way all night. Okay, or how about this? And this is surface level. I'll give you all my number. We'll probably talk this week about how deep the rabbit hole goes. But all good. Okay. So Foreclosures Daily, they're getting some competition, but I think they're very good. They're a little pricey, but they have the most counties in the country, all courthouse data. I think they started as like a law firm service, and then they came out of LexisNexis. So they are pretty good. They have almost every county. So if you are wanting to virtual wholesale or do counties that are a little more rural, Foreclosures Daily probably has the info on them. So, all right, let's keep going. Any questions on this AI stuff? Providers, you can just Google providers, so that you'll see that. If you start looking for them, then your Facebook feed will start popping up, and your Google feed, you'll start getting emails. So, all right, next one, please. All right, this is a quick thing about inbound and outbound marketing. So now you've got your data. You've got your, this one kind of got jumbled a little bit. So, but you've got your data now. How are you going to reach out to them, right? And effective marketing. We're talking about marketing. It's not what people actually go to college for this. People know a lot more about this, but I think that you can break it down into two types, and they kind of overlap, right? Inbound versus outbound. I really wanted to deep dive into KPIs on them, but we'll save that for another time. I did one. So outbound marketing, direct and proactive outreach to a potentially motivated seller, right? Your list is stacked 10 times, and the AI has identified they might sell in the future. We're going to give them, you're going to give them a call. You can text blast them. You can email blast them. There's printed ads. I hear TV and radio has the highest return on investment, but it also has the highest entry point. It's like 50 grand to get some results. So I hear what that realtor or that real estate team that's on the radio. I'm just wondering how much he's spending, but I bet he's getting a good return. So direct mail. Direct mail is the one I focused on. It has the highest return on investment besides TV and radio. It also has the longest cash conversion cycle, so we'll get there. Pay-per-click is a knife fight in this area. Anyone who's done pay-per-click, you know what's up. I think you need a pretty good budget, and you need to do it consistently. My pay-per-click team, until they bring me deals, then we're good again. So, billboards. I think We Buy Ugly Houses champion the billboard idea of you need 11 touches before they actually will speak to you. Kind of like when you go in the store and they say, hey, can I help you? And you go, no, I'm cool. You got a reflex no on you off the jump. And so they don't make a dime off the billboard, but the 11 times you've seen it driving home, when they actually reach out to you with a mailer or a call or a text, you've already been primed to speak to them at least 11 times before you even get that. So if that salesman was like 11 times in that store visit, are you sure you don't need anything? I really feel like I can help you. So 11 times is the answer there. Not a dollar. No one calls the number on the phone on the billboard. No one. It's a primer. So another thing we can get into. But so inbound marketing, it's you sent out.
Did you say again? You said billboard. Are you basically saying they don't work?
They don't. I'm not saying they don't work. This is just what I got from We Buy Ugly Houses, and I asked them, how much? What's your spend on that? And this is from a guy that used to be a We Buy Ugly Houses franchisee, and he says I didn't get any calls from the billboards, but when he in areas that he sent his mailers and his marketing out to that didn't have billboards, they had a higher touch to conversion rate. So his take was that the billboards work because it's a primer. So How he measured that, I guess we could get into it, because I didn't get into how he actually measured it, but it's something that's a proven science that I don't understand fully. So
In another market, my wife and I had another business a few years ago, and we went into a market that had not heard of us. And we put our signs out, we did our ads, we did, we did mailers, and they were driving down the interstate one day and saw a billboard, and that legitimized the business in their mind. Didn't get a phone call off that, but as soon as the billboard went up, people said, "Oh, I know that. Oh, that's yeah, okay." Before it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I got no idea who you were. It was not. My wife did not have a legitimate business. It was nationwide. It just was not in that one little spot where we live. That's why we were able to get the franchise. But
yeah,
when they saw the billboard, boom,
there's something
instant
to it.
legitimacy.
There's something to it. Yeah.
Then we started getting business.
I drive to the Outer Banks, and there's an agent that I see her face every time I drive down there, and then I see her face like in the restaurants. I'm like, oh, I know her. I'm like, where do I know her from? So it's already trying to draw that connection. It's working on me at least. So we're there. So yeah, inbound marketing. Outbound, you kind of get to set your pace. You get to send when you reach out, but I think I think inbound is cool because they're either calling to tell you they're not interested, or they're calling because they are interested. They're reaching out to you, so you can wait, and you just have to break down that reflex no, and then you're probably talking to someone who's interested. They just don't want to, they don't want to tell you everything up front because they're afraid you'll take advantage of them. So, yeah, pay per lead. Is anyone using pay per lead in this area? Oh well, okay. So yeah, it went from a 10 lead to a conversion, like pay for 10 leads and as an agent, it's even higher, right? So they want to sell, they just don't want to sell as a discount. So pay per lead is great, but the metrics are going up. I guess more agents are using them, but pay per lead and I think pay per click. I thought pay per click made a comeback. It got really expensive and then kind of died out, but pay per lead I think is still a great source. If you can afford to do 10 or 12 or 15, you will get at least an agent referral, or if you're an agent, great, that's a listing, and then if not, you'll get a flip, right? So worth a couple $100, and I think some of them make you bid, and some of them don't. I think we had shared providers for every type of marketing, so to the wholesalers' delight, it dropped off when we lost the original. So if you want to know providers, I'll tell you. Just come see me afterwards. I'll give you my list. So yep, next slide, please. How we doing on time? All right, marketing and KPIs. This is marketing. This is the real estate game. This is something that I didn't need to be as consistent to do a couple deals here and there. I had some marketing. And if I could get a flip or two, a flip a month or an assignment a month, 3 a month, that's a great month for me. I'm not greedy. I can live the life I want and do settlements and know that bills are paid. So, but it's very, very important, right? So when paying for marketing, budget is a critical factor. So what if you spend the money and you get no results, right? Like everyone's afraid of spending a couple grand and you get nothing back. It's a big fear. So you can virtually eliminate that by having KPIs and using them correctly. So tracking key performance indicators on marketing is crucial for converting to sales or ensuring a return on your investment, as well as, we're going to leave this off for tonight, as well as a polished lead intake, sales, and follow-up system. That's leave that for another night, but the industry providers have KPI averages and standards you can draw from, as well as measure your own against, identify your data. If your data or marketing isn't producing enough leads, or if you are not converting enough of the leads you have. So this can tell you where to focus in either area to ensure you're getting a return on marketing. I was lucky enough to shadow a large wholesaling operation, and they were like, hey, the guy hasn't closed any deals. So how many leads did he talk to this week? Oh, he talked to enough leads? Let's go listen to his phone calls then. He's not converting. So we can pinpoint exactly what is wrong in the system, and you can really start to get crispy with, if I spend this $3 grand and I want a 7x return, how much do I have to spend for how long? And if I do what I'm supposed to, we're going to get this return, right? Not just call it one time and then that's it, right? But very important, because you can start to get consistent, and then people know you can build a business off consistency. So knowing the conversion timeline can ensure you can plan a budget long enough for results, right? So mailers, they're the highest return, but you also need to do them longer than most other kinds. I talked about PPL earlier because like that's kind of you can get instant results, right? As long as you get enough of them, pay for enough of them. Whereas mailers, consistency is key. And so if you had a budget, I wouldn't say spend your whole budget on month one. I'd say spread it over 6 months and mail less each month, but do it for longer. A lot of folks don't use mailing long enough. I see agents do this a lot. They don't use mailers long enough for them to actually get the return that they, and then they say, oh, mailers suck. They don't work as well as the other stuff. It's like, well, did you measure it, and did you do it long enough, and was your data good enough, and your mailers good enough to get the good results? And I'm finding that mailers have the highest return on investment, but the longest return as well. So that's what I found, and that's this area data. So it must be true for everyone, right? So. All right, so let's talk about it, and let's just get some examples, and we'll go from there. We'll get to the next one. So this is, I had a slide for every type, PPC, PPL. We had to cut it down to just direct mail, but I think direct mail is, hey, it's straightforward, right? So these numbers have changed a little bit, and as you'll see, so I'll just go through it. You know, the highest return on investment, but the longest cash conversion cycle. So if you did it for 2 months, 3 months, didn't get a phone call, I'm still getting calls from mailers I sent in January, okay? No, I've had this on my niece gave me this 6 months ago, I had it in my dash. Now it's time to sell now. What so-and-so happened? Life happens, and they've got your card, boom, or your mailer. So this is, I think you can get better response rate than this with a better mail piece because you can get creative with your mail piece. So, you know, brokers, brokerages, or investors, you can, whatever you're selling, you can get, if you can get a piece that works, but you know, 0.005 response rate. So 1 of 42 calls is a deal. So if you're good at converting, you've got some closers or you've got some sales skills, you'll see this float around 1 of 23 to 30. At one point, I was doing a check, and I was crushing this conversion before people were doing it. Like now, everyone does that. So these include no's. So like you'll get 20 no's, and you'll get 3 yeses. Of the 3, 1 of them is ready to go right now. And the other 2, you keep following up with them. They say call them in 3 months. You call them in 3 weeks, okay? And if you keep following up, you stay consistent. This is a very high conversion method. And so let's look at the cash conversion cycle. So between 3 to 5.5 months. So I just say 6 months, right? That's like the start. So depending on if I'm wholesaling or rehabbing the property, from the day I spend the dollar to the days I get the dollars back in the bank. That means your contractor's not taking 90 days to renovate. That means he's not taking, he's not pulling plans without a contractor's license. So I've had that happen. I've had some weird stuff happen like contractors. But so 5 months, you're going to hold that bag. You're going to make that mail spend, and you're going to do what you're supposed to, follow up consistently. And I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, if you could do 3 flips, or 5 flips off of 1 month, as long as you're consistent over 6 months. I think everyone would agree that's cool, but what you'll see is that the data and how you keep track of it really matters here. So look, and I think this list is backwards, but this could mean anything, right? Look, July he spent $1,700. He only got 12 calls. May spent 3, but we got 30 calls in July or in May. It says 0.76 response rate. And so what does that mean? Does that mean what's working, what's not working? So it's very important to note that each month had 2 different mail pieces and different phone numbers. So we know how many of those calls were from which mail piece and when they're trickling in and how far, right? And so we can look at the mail piece response, we can look at the data, and we can start to try to determine what's effective, what's working, what's not working. So you could look at this and say, you can make any determination and make moves off something that if you don't understand, you're going to make the wrong move. So you really need to measure every piece of mail, every piece of marketing. I would say you can document any type of outreach you do, right? Hey, I knocked on 10 doors today. I spoke to 10 people about real estate. I put myself out there. So really keep track of it. And what time of day was it? What did we talk about? How did I open? You really can get curious, and you can really start to try things that you can measure for a result. So, I have this data on a lot of different type of marketing, and a lot of it is specific to this area. So again, we tried to chop this down for time's sake, but I do have this data. I'm happy to share it with you. I'm also happy to share the mail houses I've used, the ones I like, I don't like, who the guy you got to talk to there, and how he is, and all that. So I've done some marketing. I haven't done, haven't done, 20 grand a month every month. That's not me, but I have done enough to do, have enough flips to where I'm assigning them now. I got enough. All right. So yeah, we're happy to share. I'm an open book. Most folks know that about me. And when I started here, people were an open book to me. They poured into me and they just helped me. So I was like, well, I'm going to give it back one day. And so I will continue to always do that. So yeah, next slide. That's mailers and marketing. Does anyone have any questions on mail? Like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense? Or does anyone want to do mail now, or does this make them not want to do mail?
No, I was ready to pull the trigger earlier this year, on the mailers, and I don't know if I just got too far into my head. What I didn't want to do is spend a whole bunch of money on a bunch of postcards that went out and just didn't go anywhere.
Right.
And never came back and
Yeah.
just kept, I was worried that I didn't have enough data. I didn't have enough information to make the right clicks and get the right information. And
Yep. And so
I guess what I need to do one of these days is just sit down and go back to what I was going to do before and do it and start sending some postcards out. Because I think this has got to work, because I get 5 pieces every day. And then the other one is, if I could get a group of people together, I talked to a guy a while back who did windows, and I remember seeing his commercial on TV. I says, does that work for you? He says, I know exactly when my commercial runs, because within 10 minutes I get 10 phone calls.
yeah.
And I'm watching, I was staying at my mother's house for a long time, helping her out, and Meet TV, anybody a Meet TV addict? You guys Meet TV addicts? No? Come on, guys. Andy Griffith, um, Beverly Hillbillies, all that stuff that I grew up with. You guys have no idea what it is. But there's the wholesalers that I started out with 10 years ago are now advertising on TV. And it's every commercial set that it's happening. So I know what you said, it's got to be true, because I know there's at least 4 wholesalers that I know of that are doing that. Me TV. Well, I think they're looking at, my generation and a few years older. There's like only 20 years, between me and the next generation, which means you're selling your house because you're not here no more. So I think they're going after me as a son. Um, and if you're watching Beverly Hillbillies, Hogan's Heroes, Brady Bunch, let me think what else is on there.
Yeah.
Florence Welk. That's my grandmother's there. That house was sold a long time ago.
So Stu brought up a good point, whether you sell out or whether you send out postcards, handwritten letters, typed letters, handwritten envelopes, physically stamped envelopes, or indicia. What are the techniques that do work? What are the techniques that just really don't give any return?
Yeah, and I am like, I have been, if anyone seen Friday, I've been smokied by mail houses. So I'll ask the mail house, what are you guys doing? Do you have how many clients do you have in our area? Who am I competing against? And then what mail piece is working? Do you have any KPIs? Do you have a guarantee? Some of them used to have a guarantee because they could rely on the data. A lot of them don't now. But I'm like, hey, I called a mail house. I won't name them, but they hit me with, from Friday. It's like, if you come around here, if you don't come around, I'm gonna call you. But if you come around, I'm not gonna call you. I'm like, what? And I felt like they were just curving me just to get me to spray it out just so they could get the sale and send it out. And there are other mail houses who will literally say, hey, your market is increasing, it's starting to flood, we need to get creative, we need to make a nice mail piece, and let's structure this in a way that your money will go the furthest. There is a plateau on like how much mail pieces you're sending versus a response. And so I don't know if it's outlined here. So it's hard to say here, but over a certain amount, you're going to get the returns, okay? And they know this information. If they're a mail house that's actually sending mail, they know what's working for their clients, because their clients are going to come back, right? If you spent $3 to $10 grand with somebody and you got nothing, you're not going to go back there, right? So they know what's up. If you can get them to tell you, great. What you got, man?
Just curious, because you brought up the age of commercials. Do you have an age range that people call back from Ellard?
So that goes with your data. I let the AI predict that, right? But And again, I don't market like too consistently anymore. If I can get a couple deals, I'm cool, right? A couple flips. I'm nervous enough with the hard money folks, biting my fingernails. But no, I do think that the age is a big factor, and I think like length of ownership and all these ways that they predict. I do think it is a great silver wave where I'm working with older folks, and for me, I'm the youngest of my 5 brothers, and my parents are older, so for me, it kind of resonates with me, and maybe it's something that I just didn't notice. But yeah, a lot of our clients are older, and sometimes it's their family and friends who they need to help them, and they bring them to us. So yeah, I really think that is data driven though, right? It's not like let's just try anyone over a certain age. Like no, it's calculated. But if your mail house is not like, you'll know, you get the vibe. Like if they're not really about it, like if they just want you to take your money and spray it, like that is the fear, right? So like present them that fear and talk to them, and you'll know if like they're like, oh yeah, well, we need to try this for at least 6 months, or whatever they tell you, you're going to get the idea of whether they're really doing it or if they're just taking your money and they don't care. Really, as long as they care, you're going to get a result, because if they care enough, they're measuring the results, and if they'll share that with you. I mean, I've used a mail house that was like, yeah, there's a big player in your pond, and I suggest you don't market to the same people as them, because they're going to send them, 3 mailers a month, or 3 mailers a week. They're going to do it to you. So, and I'm like, well, let's just get more creative and stand out. So, yeah, I think the mail house matters 100%. One that I've had really good results with before they got, well, they're still doing very good. One is Yellow Letters, right? They're pretty well known. There was a time when White Pages had local subsidiaries of mail houses, and I forget, my like White Pages, because the white web page. Like no, there was actually a book with White Pages instead of Yellow Pages. I'm just old enough to know that, but I'm happy to share the mail houses I've worked with that what works. REI Print Mail is one of them. They are excellent, and there's two other ones that I've tried that I just think that even though they weren't as experienced as the bigger mail houses, man, they wanted to do a good job. And I'll take someone who doesn't know everything but wants to do the best job than someone who knows everything and just has a bad attitude. Like, yeah, whatever. I'd take that guy who wants to do a good job. What's up, man?
I'll add to what you said about the mailing companies. One is Ballpoint, Ryan,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Ryan Dawsey.
Yep. Okay. Yep. As long as it's a guy that wants to do a good job, that's you're going to be okay. And again, if they can take away some of that fear, am I about to waste money? Until you do it, I would say you can measure your own results. You won't really know, but most of them can say, hey, look, we're going to take care of you. We're going to do the best job we can, and we're going to come back in a month, and we're going to talk about what the results you got. And so whether you let them track it for you or you track it yourself, please do not just send mailers out and just hope for the best, because I've done it and it's the worst feeling. I actually sent a batch of mailers out that had some mistake. It had the address where the phone number was supposed to be something, 0 calls. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. Well, neither did the mail house. And so now, my personal address and our business gets a copy, a test sample, right, as part of the group. So hard lesson learned, but also when you send them out, like he said, he knows when the ad runs, your phone will just blow up for probably, that amount of time when they start landing, and it's all kinds of FUs, and everything wrong in their life is your fault. And some people just want to talk. Really, just they forgot why they called you. They just want to talk, and some of them are thinking about selling, or they have a friend or family member that's trying to sell, or they're trying to feel you out to see if you're a good fit for them. Which is, again, the metrics are here. So we can go to the next slide. Keep it going here. So reverse engineering example. This is what I'm talking about with the mail house. You can really press your mail house, right, and put pressure on them. It's your money, right? They work for you, right? So how are you going to make them work for you? Some of them will a lot of the good ones, they don't have this attitude anymore. But I like to try to at least be respectful, be kind, but tell them like, hey, we're working together, but I'm your client, so I have expectations. This is a very rough metric here, right? Because I think the average wholesale in our area is a little smaller. At least the folks, you guys can tell me. I think it's closer to 12. I think 12 to 15 is closer to the average assignment. I see folks getting a lot more, but not consistently. I think the average is 20K range. So I'll let you guys see how we would reverse engineer this, right? So you have a monthly revenue goal of 40 grand. The average profit per deal is 20,000. So 1 in 22 call-ins, right? With a 0.5 response rate. If you're able to look at the last slide, we were killing the 0.5 response rate. We were getting double, triple that. So good mail piece, it was a check. Success rate is 70%. And the cost per mail piece is 50 cents. They're more expensive now. They're closer to $1 now. Some are $1.10, especially for a more creative piece. This is like a base postcard with some characterization on it, but your nicer mailer pieces are going to be more expensive. So again, having good data really matters. So let's see here, $40,000 monthly revenue goal, $20,000 average profit per deal. So that's 2 contracts you need to close. So that's 2 contracts you need to close. That's 0.7, 70% success rate talks about how many contracts fall out. If you're transparent, you're not going to get that fallout rate, but you will have title problems. You will have, something that will cause a deal from not closing. And so you want to make sure you get 3 to get to your 2. I've had both. I've had months where contracts fell out more than average, and then I've had months where none of them in a row, all of them closed. So I think that's an average metric there. And so let's do the math on how much call-ins you would need to get 3 contracts. It would be 66 call-ins at a 0.005 response rate. Again, you can crush that in our area. So 13,200 mail pieces needed to do your 40 grand if your data is correct and you're going to follow up consistently. I'm talking about that includes agent referrals, right? This is for wholesaling, so agent referrals, that number goes up. Or if you're the agent, great, you can list it for them. And then, the total cost, I think this also should outline the length, right? The cash conversion, right? So if you did 13 grand every month for 6 months, by month 6, you should have at least 2 per month, right? And that's kind of scary to a lot of people. So I get, 13,000 mail pieces. This mail piece is a 6,600, total spend. So $6,600 a month for 2 deals. That will fall out. So that's $3,000 per contract with a $20,000 ROI. You're going to be all right. So if you're scared to spend 6 grand, yeah, let's make sure we press the mail house. Let's make sure our data is right. Let's make sure we have our everything together. But if you do what you're supposed to, and a lot of folks don't, I'm one of them. Hey, I still miss leads. I still don't follow up how I'm supposed to. But the ideal here is, I think a 90-day return on 66 per month, you should be hitting your 2 contracts, or you're doing something very wrong. At least 1 contract a month, month 3, right? At least 1 deal to cover your expenses. But I think if you're paying attention and your mail house is competent and you guys are checking and looking and seeing what's working, I'm like, week 1, I'm like, where are we at? What are we doing? What's going on? Where and how many mailers you send out each week versus for the total month, and what day of the week. All that stuff seems to matter. It seems to be, Wednesday and Friday, like if it'll land, if you mail it out Wednesday so it hits Friday kind of thing. And then you'll get a ton of calls over the weekend instead of like all at once. All these things are things you can work on. So, but again, I've been the guy that spent 3 grand that 1 month, didn't get a call that month and thought, this doesn't work, man. I just blew it, and then told the mail house, gave them the come to Jesus speech, and then the next month I was getting calls from that first month, and some of them were converting. I'm like, oh, my bad. I might overreact. that fear. And so I think eliminating that fear would be using KPIs and using marketing, and it's a real thing, and I think everyone can benefit from it, whether you're running a team or it's just yourself, agent or just investor. So I think I thought this was very pertinent information. Again, I have most of this data for all the different types of marketing, PPC, PPL. I'll tell you what I don't do, and then I've told you what I've done. Some of what I've done is outdated. I really think PPC and PPL are making a comeback, but they're expensive. And so you got to know how much budget you need to be successful. And again, your provider should tell you that. If this provider is like, oh yeah, dude, we do great, you're going to be fine. It's like, oh, I'm not comfortable enough yet until I talk to someone who's going to tell me what kind of results you're getting. So very important. And I think this is just one type of marketing you can do to, most of the bigger firms, I guess we'll say firms, most of the bigger outfits, they recommend like at least 7 main marketing pieces that you maintain, manage, measure, and stay sharp on with your team, or if you're the team, making sure you're following up as much as you're supposed to. And so, the question here I would hope encourages people is like, would you answer 66 phone calls to make 40 grand? Would ever in this room do that? So I would do it, diesel mechanic. You sign me up. I'll call 66 people right now in front of you, for that much money. So, but yeah, so hopefully that's encouraging. I know it might have got a little confusing, and it's late, and we've all had food, but this gets me excited because again, any phone call could be that deal, that next deal. Oh, and guess what? The dude's a nephew, his uncle has commercial properties and his uncle's not doing good and they need help. You know, he got screwed by some other investor. So I get excited to get on the phones, and some people don't like talking on the phones. I still get call reluctance. I still don't like answering the phone, but I'll do it. I do it because the numbers are, they speak for themselves.
Phone call might be money.
Yep, there you go. Cool. Next slide. I think we're getting there. All right, so we're talking about deal types and exits. This one we could just spend all night on, right? As your title agent, I see some really, really smart people do really smart things. See some very interestingly structured daisy chains, but I also see some very interesting deals. I see a lot more commercial stuff that is a little more open-minded, and I think as the commercial people are bringing that to the residential side, I think all of you should know this. It's kind of like, I think they should teach real estate in public school, but that's just me. So, which I tried to do in Pocosin, by the way. They said it wasn't a good idea. Anyway, so we'll start with rental examples. Is everyone familiar with the BRRRR? Buy, renovate, rent, refinance. Most of these are all long-term goals, but I want you to remember that any of these could overlap. So you've got subject to. So you could have gotten your first BRRRR from a subject to, right? Could have taken over the payments, then renovated it, lower entry, and then refinanced it, right? And so we'll just go down the list. Traditional long-term rentals are great, right? If you just have a job and you buy a house every 5 years, at the end of your working career and retirement, you've got maybe enough houses to just be comfortable, and so you don't have to learn any of this cool stuff we're doing. House hacking, most folks know about that. Won't kill you on. Seller finance, I really think seller finance is one of my favorites just because it's a lot more common in other spaces, and especially if you go to, our sister office is in a more rural area in Scottsville, and we see a lot of folks still doing deals tongue-in-cheek, seller financing, shaking hands. They don't want to use a title company or attorneys. They think banks are trying to scam them. And we see a lot of deals set up that way, that their grandparents set up deals that way, and they still are very solid legal instruments. So very cool. I love subject to and seller finance. Arbitrage. Did anyone do the Airbnb arbitrage stuff? You did that? Are you still doing it?
No.
No? Okay, yeah. I just found it was a lot of work. That's all. It was too much work for me. I had kids, and I was like, well, it's too much for me. But I did know the lady that actually spoke here. She had some Airbnbs on the beach, and she did very well for herself. Newport News. Anyone got a short-term rental in Newport News? No, they changed the rules, and I won't get into it, but you might have had a good time if you have a rental in Newport News you want to do Airbnb at. So the city council said if you want to short-term rental your property, it has to be your primary residence. So share where you sleep if you want people to come sleep. So, interesting take. That's what's up. But yeah, short-term. Everyone in here. Oh, buy the bed and rooms for rent. That's becoming a big thing, and it's kind of a gray area. I have an investor in Arizona, and Arizona is a crazy market, and they're doing a ton of this, and it's kind of this gray area where they don't really have permits for it. The county doesn't really allow it. The zoning, it's not zoned for it, but they rent their properties per door, and they put the rental number above the door, and then everything else is common area. And it's starting to take hold here. There's a couple that I've done for a couple folks in Norfolk, and there's actually a couple in Hampton and Newport News that are, to a bank, you just took a 4-bedroom house. That's a fourplex now. You've got 4 leases, 4 tenants, and even better, you can add the garage, and that's 2 more units, right? So now you split that in half, 2 bedrooms in there, add climate control. So you just, on paper, to a bank, you have 6 tenants, you have 6 doors from one single family property. I think it's powerful. What happens when zoning finds out about that? I don't know. Good luck. But in the meantime, I think a lot of people are ready for that, and they'll just say, oh, I'll just put it back to single family or whatever. And there are actually people who will manage them for you, just like Airbnb. So anyway, we'll keep going here. Subleases, master leases, commercial leases, triple net. That's kind of the investors' commercial space, but they're very powerful, right? You can take over. You can own basically a commercial multifamily by a master lease. You can control it. And then you can arbitrage it that way. So very interesting stuff. I've been a part of those LOIs, and they're very interesting to me, especially if they're willing to seller finance, right? So if someone's going to, if you don't got no money and you want to buy something, seller finance is how you do it, right? You know, if you've got 20,000, you know, you got 20,000, you know, so you could say, hey, instead of trying to put that 20%, that's 20% down on a $100,000 property, you can put it, you know, say, hey, I'll give you 20 on a $300,000 property and then make you payments. So it's very powerful, and there's no bank, your credit's not involved, and you know, there's ways to protect the seller. So anyway, we'll keep going. Rent to own, so that's hybrid. These are kind of like these, and remember, these can all overlap. So I've seen all of these crisscross in certain deals. I'm like, oh, he got it as a lease option. You know, it's a lease option that he wrapped to the, you know, he wrapped a subject to and a lease option and sold it to the tenant buyers, right? There's someone else's mortgage on it. He never once applied for the loan. He took it over and then wrapped it. He's making an interest spread. He's a bank, and he's not a landlord. He's just making an interest spread, and he never had to qualify for a loan or be a property manager, right? Very interesting stuff. So that's the seller finance wrap. The slow flip, I think I have a property for sale that's going to be, it's an Emporia if anyone wants to look at it. It might fit a slow flip. It needs a lot of work. So maybe we'll talk about that. I'll seller finance that. We'll talk about it, man. That's, am I right, this land contract for deed, or where they don't get the actual deed, they are in agreement and it's paid off?
Right, it's
Okay.
called a contract for deed.
Contract for deed, okay, not land contract. That's an antiquated term, yeah. The old attorneys I work with call them land contract for deeds. But yes, they don't take title. As your title agent, I'd love for you to get the deed, but the opportunity is also important to own and control real estate, right? So it's a great, slow flips are really cool. I really like them. Holding notes, right? If you have a property you want to sell, I can tell you more times than not, I've helped landlords in Norfolk sell their portfolio, and they have seller financed their portfolio to someone who is younger and wants to make their mark and wants the opportunity. And so they went from, you know, trash tenants and toilets to, we upgraded them from landlord to the bank. Now, like, hey, we will give you a down payment, we'll manage and run all these rentals, and you can get a monthly check every month, and you can basically it's residual income, right? So you don't call the bank when a window breaks in your house, right? No, the bank gets their check every month no matter what. And so if there are landlords that are looking to do that, I've helped a few, but yeah, microphone for sure, yeah.
I have two properties in Peoria, Illinois that the people bought on contract for deed. I do 30-year financing. They are low income. So the city had a program where they have now put brand new windows and painted all their trim, the interior of the house, and even fixed a deck on the back of it. Didn't cost me a dime because I'm on title. I just had to sign giving them permission.
Yeah.
But the people qualified because their income level.
Perfect, right.
So now I have two houses that have brand new windows and brand new paint and a new deck.
You never have to pay it back as long as they live
Nope,
there for a
it
certain
was a
amount of
grant.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
live there for a year, they'll give it to you. Excellent, that's so cool. I've done something like that in Portsmouth, and not a slow flip, but where a grant was like that. And I've also been, have worked as a trustee, like I told you guys, for when people do that, and then they don't meet, like, all you have to do is live here, and they don't, and then they default, and then they don't pay it back. So very, very cool stuff, though. We'll definitely talk afterwards. And then you've got your traditional exits. This is where I've been at. I've done some of these stuffs. I have a rental. You know, I've had a few. I've done seller finance, subject to. I love them. There are inherent risks, right? The do on sell clause. Has anyone heard of that? Is anyone afraid of that? You shouldn't be. Okay, you shouldn't be at all. Cool. But yeah, we'll go down it. Flips. You know, flip and rehab / relist. That's pretty much anyone. Assignments. You know, again, there's the assignment game is changing. I think it's slightly enforced, but there are new regulation and rules, right? And so novations, I don't see a ton of that here. I know my partner I have in Arizona is doing a ton of them. They love them out there, but their properties are $1 million for a 2-1, right? So to each your own. Equity share, you know. I knew a guy named Reese Pennington who did a lot of this stuff. I mean, one of the examples he made was a lady who wanted, she wanted $500K for her house. It was only worth $300, and so she just wanted the cash. Well, what do you want $500 for? I was like, well, I want $100,000 to go on my sailboat. He's like, all right, well, she cash out refinanced it, and then he took over the payments, right? So she got the equity, he got the property, everybody won. And I think she gave him some of the refi money and no payments for 6 months, of course, right? Because you want to throw that in. But equity share is kind of those things where you really want to open your mind up to things that maybe you haven't thought of. And I'm telling you, I see deals where I'm like, I never thought of it. You know, retired attorneys and accountants are just doing stuff that you just wouldn't believe. And so I wanted to get into some of that stuff. And I just want you to know, any one of these deals can crisscross into the other, right? So don't just think a flip is just a flip, or a burr is just a burr, or seller finance is just. You really can get creative and you can stack these deals, especially if you don't have money or credit, right? So you should get excited. You don't need credit or money to buy a house, man. What are we doing? Hotel, one of my favorites, right? You'll see a lot of my listings are hotels, right? Last year I didn't even renovate them, man. I just put them on the market. Let you guys do it, you know? Bring your hard money, let's go. But they were all deals because, right? I was this close to doing it myself. So I think hotels are cool. And then of course, I'm seeing folks try to sign deals off MLS. And I think someone was teaching a course to do that. I don't know if anyone has successfully done it. Yeah, okay, yeah. And so I'm seeing more of that, especially with buyers being motivated. I had one that just fell out, and it was up north, and of course, as soon as as soon as it expired, as soon as the agreement was no longer valid, they just went around them and got under contract for that price. But sure.
So you touched on it briefly. Assignments here, new laws passed. I actually ran into this issue with the title company, not in this state though, but where they wouldn't allow an assignment.
Use the wrong title
on-
company. No, I'm sorry.
Well, no. So
It's a joke.
my question to you though is like, how are you handling that? Is that an issue at all? Because now the law states that if you do more than 3 in a year, you have to use a different entity, or you're not allowed to.
So
Essentially. But how
So
are they tracking
did they
it?
tell you you couldn't use an entity to do it, or was it individual in a personal name? Was it in your personal name, or was it entity?
No, it was in a LLC,
Interesting.
but they wouldn't allow the assignment fee to be on the
Oh, right.
contract. So I know you could double close, but like from the
They
title company perspective, how
Sure.
would you?
They changed the rules on double closing too. So very interesting. Yeah, next slide. I think the next slide goes right into this. I think. There we go. All right. So assignments and wholesaling. We could spend a whole night on this. Excellent question. So you're assigning the contract, not the property itself. That's what makes the assignment strategy powerful. It allows you to profit without ever taking ownership. So real estate assignment is regulated in the state of Virginia. I didn't put the actual statute because I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice, right? I say that every day of my life. Okay. So it just says, the definition of real estate broker, and they might have updated this. Might be antiquated. I really encourage you guys to look up the rules because remember, each locality can make their own rules against settlements as well, right? They don't have full authority, but they can make provisions, and whether the clerk honors it or not. We had the Norfolk County clerk not honor out-of-state notaries. So if you don't live in Virginia, you can't sell a property in Virginia. Like, I called the state bar immediately. Was like, hey, this clerk's telling me she won't take this deed. What are we doing? And they just said, cool out, we got this. I was like, all right, cool. So to answer that, any individual or business entity, right, who deals in real estate contracts, including assignable contracts, on 2 or more occasions in any 12-month period for compensation. This means frequent wholesaling activity may now require a real estate broker's license. So I have not seen them enforce this. The title companies are the ones who are really getting in trouble for this if they do it. Okay, and so I have seen I have seen agreements where they just you start with the same entity and you don't assign to another entity. You assign the entity, right? So does that make sense? So I would lock it up under my LLC, and then you as the end buyer I would make you a member on this LLC, and then we would close it. The same LLC closed it. You brought the money. It was my LLC, and then once we close, it's yours. So we never assigned it. The same LLC got under contract and closed it. We added a member. So I see people doing that. Again, not legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I'm seeing people skirt that way. And then I think double close is another way to do that, but they changed the rules on double closing as well, where you can't use the funds from B to C to fund A to B. And so I've seen a lot of gap lenders come up. I was a gap lender a few times where, hey, I've already got the end buyer's money in escrow. It's safe. I just need to fund this 100 grand for 4 hours until we record the deed. So, we take 3 grand to do that.
As long as you disclose it.
There you go. Right. So there's very, very specific rules. I'm not an attorney.
Well, I
Really
guess
make sure.
My question to you though is, being in the title business, how have you been? Have you
I've-
just been dealing with it? Have you said forget about it?
Well, I'm licensed. I'm a licensed agent too, so we're cool. I haven't done a lot of assignments this way, and the way that I would characterize this is starting with the LLC and just managing the member, adding a member and not assigning it to another LLC. So just just changing ownership of LLCs instead of assigning assignment fees, right? And so, and there's all kinds of operating agreements that I've seen for safety from when you take over and we send it, but I'm seeing a lot of people skirt it that way.
But
not
it
licensed.
sounds like if you do it that way, then you're paying the assigner outside of the transaction, right?
This could, yeah, that could
And
happen.
so that could be
Right,
considered
so you
illegal as well.
you really got to get your attorneys in line. You really got to make sure that you're doing this correctly. I think each, I think, I think each way that it's structured matters, but I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of it, whether it's right or wrong, and how well it's enforced. Right, I think FRIPTA and the governing bodies I think they will come down on this pretty heavily, and it's going to be after the fact. Like, hey, last year you closed the deal this way. We don't like that. Here's your fine. But yes,
Well, just to speak to that part though, there's no way for them to track it. There's no system in place. There's no way.
There you go.
Hey, you did one 6 months ago. You can't do another one without.
right.
Like
And
they're not.
Yeah, and would be the same way, right? A little bit more difficult, but that's how we're seeing people do it. And of course, the folks that are doing the bulk of the deals are brokers, right? So you see, you see the guys like, well, I won't name them, but some of the bigger wholesalers are brokers, and that's how they're just like, hey, let's just get licensed to do it, right?
Well, I feel like so that's why more title companies are saying no, we don't want to see
Yes,
it at all.
correct,
We don't
yep.
want it on there.
Yep, completely understand.
And I feel like that's probably going to be more prevalent.
I agree. Yep, great question. Yep. I want to tell you I'm not an attorney. We'll talk after. I can't give you legal advice, man. But yeah, there's a lot of ways people are going around it, and not without a license, and not that much more expensive, and definitely not as expensive as double closing for sure, right? But I see the double closings going on, and lenders popping up to meet those needs of, again.
Well, I've had some wholesalers say they don't care. They just
Right.
assume business as usual.
Yeah. And some people are just doing as usual. And like you said, are they going to ever be enforced or penalized? I don't know. I'm not the government. I'm not the police. But please look up your laws. Talk to your attorney. Make sure you have a competent attorney, and ask these questions. Because if you don't ask these questions, they're not going to. They won't even look out for them. I will say. I think we're moving to a much more regulated real estate market. I think all of them eventually are going to start moving in that direction. So just get used to it, and instead of complaining about how it is, figure out how you can be better in this space. Because I don't think regulation is going away. And in fact, Virginia is pretty lax in terms of its regulation versus other states. So expect more for sure. Yep, great question. Thank you. All right, so agreements. I went light on this, guys, because there are so many ways to come to an agreement. I kind of leave this to everyone else. I leave it to you if you're a hard closer, if you're laid back, and everything in between. So I just come into agreement. There's many ways to do it. To present a written agreement to a seller after a verbal agreement. Agents, right? How do you guys get the contract signed? Do you do it in person? Do you do it over a table? Do you do it online? Do you walk them through it over the phone? There's a million ways to do it. I'm not going to tell you what's right or wrong. There are definitely indicators on what it seems to be more successful in terms of conversion. I'm just not a hard closer, right? I'm not the beat you up guy. You can see to each their own. However, having the array of viable options, right? You know how to exit any deal. You've got all these exit strategies. You've got the marketing. You've talked to them, and now you have all these tools, and you just say, hey, here's all your options. I want to make sure you understand all of them, and you can decide what makes the most sense, right? I don't ram it down anyone's throat. I just really don't do that. And in fact, I will tell people all the time, I want to find out if we're a good fit or not, and if we're not, that's okay. But I bet I know someone who is, and we can point you in the right direction. It's totally cool with me. So, and I've lost deals that way, and I think I've gotten a lot more back because of that. Because I just don't. I think people are smart enough to know what's best for themselves. And so, how I present, I've done both. I've been over the phone with DocuSign, right? Like, hey, let me walk you through it. After I know you can get the vibe, they're going to work with you. They like you, and I also. Don't discourage anyone from being themselves, because after looking at some of these metrics, some of them just don't make sense. Sometimes people just work with people they resonate with, and they've talked to 10 other people. There's 10 other people behind it, but they picked you, and you will resonate with people by being yourself. So please just do that. No one can be you. That's why everyone in this room can get a deal, by being you. I firmly believe that. I've lost deals where I thought we had we were cool, and no, they just resonated with someone else. It was the terms were comparable, right?
Well, I
So-
feel like if they were watching Andy Griffith,
Yeah.
then they might have trouble with DocuSign.
There you go, right? Yep. That's me. Like, yeah, there you go. So yeah, you got it. So you kind of reading.
Trouble with what?
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So we're at the tail end here. Does anyone? I think I just threw another. This is my next. Oh, you got it. It was. I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice, but make sure you have a competent attorney draft your legal documents for you. And again, you're only one deal away. So I hope you get out there and do it, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Any quick questions?
Questions? Uh-oh.
I tell you what, I was listening to that, and there's probably 5 more discussions we could pull out of that. So we'll get together and see
Cool.
if we
Yep.
can't
Thank you.
come up with some more evenings. All right, so this is the time where we sit around, we do a little networking. So if you're not living in Richmond, trying to drive another hour and a half, please stick around and let's see if we can't find some deals and do some deals together. Thanks for